Our topic will be on behaviorism, which is the theory that human or animal behavior is based on conditioning rather than being explained by one's thoughts or feelings. And we will be focusing on John B. Watson. So who is John B. Watson? Watson is an American psychologist that made behaviorism widely known. In his view, behaviorism was restricted to the objective experimental study of the relationship between environmental events and human behaviors. Watsonian behaviorism became a dominant psychology during the 1920s and 30s in the United States. Watson then received a PhD in psychology in 1903, and then he became a professor of psychology at Johns Hopkins University in 1908, where he immediately established a laboratory for research in comparative or animal psychology.
Alright, so I'm going to be touching on the contribution to psychology from John B. Watson. He taught at the University of Chicago, where he received his PhD. When he began teaching, he established a lab for animal psychology and then proceeded to write a number of books, those being Psychology as a Behaviorist Views It, Behavior, Intro to Comparative Psychology, Psychology from the Standpoint of a Behaviorist, and then later in his years he wrote Behaviorism, which individuals entering the psychology field are very interested in these days. The first 3 books were mainly based on studying human psychology just like animal psychology, so it's observable behavior, so it should be done in labs. He also explained that conditioned responses were the main tool that we should be using. So his main contribution were his books, along with his theory that animal behavior and human behavior are the same.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stogie and I'll be explaining Watson's theory of behaviorism. According to Watson, behaviorism was the science of observable behavior, one that can be recorded and measured. He believed that a person's physical responses provided only insight into internal actions. For example, the Little Albert experiment. Watson and his assistant put a lab rat and a baby in one room. Little Albert, the baby, showed no fear towards the lab rat, but as soon as little Albert reached for the rat, his assistant pulled out a rod and a hammer and struck it. From that, little Albert got scared and started crying. Since these 2 things were paired, now little Albert fears every furry object he sees. Watson thinks that previous episodes from the past lead to how people perceive things now, and how they tend to react is their specific behavior. Then Watson assumed that our behavior is a reflex encouraged by a stimulus, or a consequence of our individual history.
Watson himself was mainly influenced by the work of Ivan Pavlov. Watson's work influenced many psychologists and behaviorists after him. Among these who were influenced by Watson was B.F. Skinner, who was influenced by Watson's philosophy of psychology called behaviorism. Skinner went on and refined the concept of operant conditioning and the law of effect, which had a great influence on 20th century experimental psychology. Watson also influenced Carl Lashley, who is known for his contribution to the study of learning and memory, as well as Leonard Bloomfield, who led the development of structural linguistics.
So what is Watson's impact on today? Watson believed that all individuals are born with blank minds and that the environment will determine our behaviors. Watson's theories and research were very influential to the field of psychology, and now Watson has left his marks on the larger world. Watson's theories are noticeable in current practices, and his work has also been very influential on psychologists like B.F. Skinner. Watson grew his theory by studying behaviorism and emotions. He looked at how emotions may affect behavior and how those behaviors may determine our actions. His research is still used today, and his theories continue to prove effectiveness in both psychological and educational settings.